Welcome to HeartGlow CEO, where high-performing leaders learn to regulate stress, strengthen self-trust, and make clear decisions without sacrificing their health or values. I'm Casey Rossi, Integrative Leadership Coach. Expect practical nervous system tools, conscious leadership insights, and real conversations that bring achievement into alignment. Take a deep breath with me, and let's dive in. Rejection is sneaky because in leadership, it doesn't always show up as hurt feelings. It shows up as strategy. It shows up as what you do fast before your wise, grounded self has a chance to get in front of the room. This week, I had 2 calls back to back where leaders said something really interesting. The bottom line was, my rejection trigger keeps me from leading well. I pay attention to patterns, and that's what prompted me to record this episode. I hope it resonates. In a nutshell, one leader's MO is to shrink and get bulldozed. The other doesn't put herself out there because she's afraid confidence will be interpreted as cocky or arrogant. She rated herself 3 out of 10 in confidence. That just hurts my heart. And both of them, brilliant women, are not only dealing with the personal cost, they're dealing with the leadership cost. How this impacts the tone they set, what they model, and what their teams learn is safe. Sometimes we need more than take a breath and speak your truth. Not because that's wrong, Lord knows I've said that, but because it's helpful to have a few more tools to pull from, so in the moment you feel aware and competent. Understanding what's really happening when rejection gets activated will help with your awareness, which we all know in any change work is step 1. Here's the 5-pack of rejection responses I see constantly in leadership. I want you to take a peek and see if you can relate to one or more or all of them. The shrinker. Let me make myself smaller so I don't get knocked down. The prover. Let me over-explain so I'm not doubted. The overfunctioner. Let me do it all so I'm not replaceable. The avoider. Let me stay quiet so I don't get judged. And the defender. Let me go sharp so no one can touch me. Different costumes, same nervous system message. If I'm fully seen, I could be rejected, and that's not safe. And I want to name something important. Rejection doesn't have to be dramatic to be formative. It can be subtle. It can be repeated. It can be the tiny moment that you learned when I speak, I get corrected, or when I take up space, I get teased, or when I have needs, I get dismissed. I feel these, and I have worn all of these costumes at some point. If I'm honest, I think the overfunctioner got the most airplay. I invite you to tune in and see if you're noticing anything in your soma by just listening to those examples, and let whatever bubbling up for you come up and out. Let any past tension, anger, or shame from any of these unresourceful roles dissolve, because you don't need them anymore. Good. We've learned behaviors based on real outcomes. All those times people, places, or things pushed you down when you stood up naturally caused you to adapt. You became strategic, consciously or unconsciously. And the problem is, what helped you belong back then can sabotage your leadership now. I want to talk about the cost, because rejection patterns aren't just personal growth work. They're operational. They cost you time, energy, clarity, and trust. So, cost number one, you lose leadership bandwidth. Think about that for a minute. When rejection is active, you're not fully in the meeting, you're scanning, you're reading faces, you're interpreting tone, you're managing perception. And honestly, we're built to scan for threats, so we all probably have a little bit of this anyway. But that's attention that you can't spend on making a clean decision or having the hard conversation. There's research showing that rejection sensitivity can disrupt attention when social threat cues are present, meaning your brain prioritizes detecting and managing potential rejection at the expense of your other goals. That is not a mindset issue. That's a bandwidth issue. Cost number two, you unintentionally train your team. I know this one's going to sting just a little bit, but if you shrink, your team learns intensity wins. If you over-explain, your team learns certainty requires permission, right? So even in that, it's like, are you going to take a risk? Probably not. If you avoid, your team learns we don't name the thing, right? We're just going to sweep it under the rug. We're going to hope it doesn't come up. We're not going to address the elephant in the room. If you overfunction, your team learns rescue is leadership, right? I'm sure like a fixer is coming to play in your mind. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody that you know, but that overfunctioning, that leader that doesn't know how to delegate, the leader that is like, I can do this a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Oh, they're going through so much. I'll do the thing. I'll step in. Rescuing and fixing is not leadership. And lastly, if you defend, your team learns honesty is dangerous. We all have been around a prickly person where we have this intimidation to really speak our truth and we're walking on eggshells because we're not quite sure what's going to trip them. This is how private patterns become public culture. And that connects to something we know from organizational research. When people don't feel safe to take interpersonal risks, ask the questions, admit mistakes, challenge ideas, the whole team is suffering. Amy Edmondson's work on psychological safety links psychological safety with learning behavior and then links that to performance. So you can see that natural cascade. If you're not going to feel safe, you're not going to want to fail fast and learn from your mistakes and pick yourself up and lead so you can reiterate and ship again, to quote Seth Godin. When your rejection wound is driving, it's not just your issue, it's a climate issue. It's company culture. It's what you're swimming in. I know hearing this can feel like a bummer because I did have a leader that had a little bit of resentment when we were talking about this. Almost like, isn't it enough that I'm struggling? Now I have the pressure of modeling behavior as well? And this can bring up resentment. Please don't let it. You are here listening to this podcast or receiving coaching because you desire change. You value transformation and you're driven to improve, just like me. It's a gift to lead, and yes, with that gift comes responsibility. We accept the truths and move on with the new insights. It can be that simple. So that was just a little side note there as I'm going through the costs, but I think it's important to highlight. Cost number 3, you start editing truth. This is the sneakiest one because leaders with rejection triggers don't always lie. They just sand down the edges of reality. It can look like softening the feedback until it's pretty much useless, delaying the boundary until you resent it, right? Like, well, I'll do that next time. It could look like you saying, I'm flexible when you mean, I'm scared you'll be disappointed. You don't ask for what you want because you don't want to look demanding. And after a while, you don't even notice you're doing it. You just think of it or call it being easy to work with. Can you relate to any of these costs? Now, here's where we go deeper. Why does rejection hit so hard? Because the brain reads social rejection as a form of threat. There's classic neuroimaging research showing overlap between social pain and physical pain systems. Social exclusion activates region in the brain associated with distress. Isn't that fascinating? So when you feel rejected, your system isn't being dramatic, it's being ancient. Belonging has always been survival adjacent for humans. Your nervous system does not want you exiled from the tribe. And when that alarm goes off in leadership, your system will pick a strategy it believes will keep you safe. And that's why these 5 types are safety strategies. But here's the leadership twist. Rejection strategies are designed to protect you from discomfort now, even if they cost you influence later, right? You know that our system rewards what we repeat, and we also move away from pain and towards pleasure. So think about that for a minute. These rejection strategies, they're caring about your comfort right now. They're not using all of their wisdom to think about the future. So what that looks like is the shrinker avoids impact now and loses respect later. The prover avoids doubt now and burns time later. The overfunctioner avoids being replaced now and creates dependency later. The avoider avoids judgment now and loses her authority later. And the defender avoids vulnerability now and loses her connection later. Can you see that little teeter-totter? That relationship between rejection strategies protecting you now, but costing you later? Instead of here's the one clean move, I want to give you a framework that helps you understand the long-standing pattern, the loop, so you can interrupt it in a way that feels real for you. So I want you to look at the rejection loop in this way. A moment happens, and that moment could be someone interrupts you. You don't get the credit. That one's always hard for me. Your boss is short. A peer challenges you. You're asked to justify. You're not included. Whatever the moment, I want you to just think about that. What happens then? Your body decides what it means before your mind does. So this is where the somatic awareness is going to help you, because when you understand what your body's doing, you can also disrupt this loop. That can look like a tight throat, heat in your chest. I tend to get flushed in my cheeks, or jaws that clench, a really busy brain, or a shutdown brain from overwhelm, or this sudden urgency. Next, your identity gets threatened. This is the part most people miss, because rejection doesn't just say they don't like me. Rejection says I'm not respected, I'm not safe, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I'm going to lose status. It goes to some pretty deep basement wounds, right? It goes right down there to those deeper fears. And when identity gets threatened, that's when we start to choose a strategy. Those strategies of shrinking, proving, overfunctioning, avoiding, defending. You see how all this relates? It's so clear when we can dissect it. That's why I wanted to give you this in a really step-by-step way, so it's not so overwhelming and you don't feel like you're wading through the muck or just being reactive. You can really start to pull it apart, disable it, look at it in this way. So once you've chosen your strategy, you get a short-term reward. Like we talked about, you avoid the awkwardness, you stay liked, you keep the peace, you don't cry and get emotional, you don't get judged. And here's that closing part of the loop. Then you pay the long-term cost. You feel unseen, you feel pissed off, you don't trust yourself, you lose clarity, your team doesn't know what's real, and your confidence drops. Not because you're incapable, but because you kept abandoning your own signal. And that's the full loop. You're going to have this in the transcription. And even if you bullet point it out to just see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, holy smokes, this is the rejection loop. You can see where you get snagged, and then you can put strategies that are resourceful in place to break the loop. Here's the question that changes everything. What is rejection costing you that you can't afford anymore? Not in theory, but in your real life. Is it costing you promotions because you don't advocate for yourself? Is it costing you retention because your team is confused and walking on eggshells? Is it costing you energy because you're carrying what should be shared or released or garbaged? Is it costing you intimacy at work or at home, real trust, because you're always managing image and perception? I want to circle back to those two leaders. For the shrinker, the work isn't being louder. It's stay in the room. It's staying in your seat internally when someone else comes in hot. Because shrinking is a nervous system exit. Now, for her, we're practicing strategies for her to feel grounded and fully take up space, both pre-meeting and face-to-face with her dominant supervisor. For the leader afraid of being arrogant, the work isn't fake confidence, like we've all heard that fake it till you make it. It's unhooking confidence from ego, right? It's that disconnection between those two pieces. Confidence is not dominance. Confidence is clarity. It's clean ownership of your perspective without needing applause. There's a lot of layers there. And with this leader, we're working on understanding the root and meaning making she has with confidence in general. And it goes deep, and the work is deep. And this is the final truth I want to leave you with. Rejection wounds don't heal because you become tougher. They heal because you stop outsourcing your belonging. Can you feel that? That lands for me. You stop asking the room to tell you whether you're allowed to take up space. You stop waiting for the perfect tone, the perfect moment, the perfect reaction. You lead from the inside out, which is my absolute favorite thing to coach. And when you lead from this way, it's not a performance and it's not a persona, and there's no masking, there's no roles, there's no costumes. As a regulated, honest, self-trusting human who is done letting old protection run the meeting, that's who you get to be. That's really who you are when all else gets to drop to the floor. An honest, self-trusting human who is done letting old protection run her life. If rejection gets activated in you, notice your type, name your strategy, track the cost, and start telling the truth earlier while it's still clean. Because your team doesn't need perfect, they need real. And they're learning how to be real by watching you. Okay, my friend, thank you so much for listening. It's such a pleasure to share these ideas and these insights. Know that I am walking right alongside, shaking my head, learning, going deep to see my own patterns and having curiosity and intention to break those long-standing patterns that do not serve. You're not alone. We're in this together, and until next time, breathe joy.